people are coming in here, and want to say good morning to all our WCET friends today. Hope that you're having a wonderful day. This first session is so good. My friend Luna the cat up here asked if she could bring a friend today to watch this session. And then while we're doing this here, that we do want to remind you that you can still sign up for work groups, and that you can find the tab for work groups on the left side of the feed loop page. So do sign up for those. Thing about me, you probably do not know that my first job out of college was helping faculty use the computer to make statistical calculations for their research, both faculty and graduate students. And so Luna and I are both particularly pumped for today's session on research-based strategies in a nerdy sort of way that we are. So I'm so glad that you're here, and I want to learn quite a bit from this group. It's a fabulous group that we have today. And so now it's my great privilege to introduce Mary Ellen Stritto, Director of Ecampus Research at Oregon State University. For Ecampus, Mary Ellen designs and conducts research studies on online teaching and learning, provides support for faculty research on online education, and produces tools to promote research literacy. Her background is in psychology with a specialization in quantitative methodologies, survey design, and statistical analysis. My type of person. I like that. Anyway, take it away, Mary Ellen. Thank you, group.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you, Russ, for that introduction. I'm excited to be able to introduce our panelists for this morning. So we have Tanya Joosten, the Director of Digital Learning, Research and Development at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and the National Research Center for Distance Education and Technical Advancements. We have Jessica Knott, Service Strategy Team Manager from Michigan State University. And we have Newton Miller, Associate Dean of the College of Education at Ashford University. So I'm excited to have this group of my colleagues together here early on a Wednesday morning to have a lively discussion this morning. So I appreciate having them with me. And I'm going to begin with a question, and we can take questions and answers as we go, and we'll have time at the very end for folks to submit questions as well. So let me start with a question here for our panelists on the role of data, since we are all researchers. So I'm going to start with this first question. So what role does or should data play in faculty technology and design support? And then a follow-up to that is, how does this data tie to student success? So one of my panelists want to join in on that?
I can start with that one. Hi, Jess Knott from Michigan State University. And as Mary Ellen pointed out, I have been in service strategy roles, and I am also currently the interim Senior Manager for Instructional Technology and Development. And so both of those roles are very similar in that they rely on data to help us figure out how to support faculty in designing, rich and effective learning experiences. And I don't know if you all have noticed that 2020 is a little different. We're all in these spaces that maybe we were prepared for, maybe we weren't prepared for. But as designers and support, we need to be focused on gathering the data that helps us understand where our students are and how we can meet them. And so in my role as the currently leading an instructional technology team in a central IT unit, we are gathering data that not only figures out where faculty are, but where they need to be. So what we're doing is trying to be less reactionary and more proactive. So we're doing things like, how many people still think they're teaching face-to-face in spring of 2021? Maybe we could start preparing them for the eventuality that they might not be. So how can we reach out and say, let us help you design your course for the eventuality that you may be online? All of these data points can help us get in front of faculty to say, let's look at how your students are experiencing this. Right now, our data shows that students are being asked to access anywhere from 4 to 12 systems per day. Just usability wise, that's very difficult. Think of the cognitive load you feel when you're in 9 Zoom meetings in a single day. And I'm sure that there are 28 people here, 24 of them probably just went, oh my goodness, right? So students who are in these classes all day, every day, and then bouncing around from system to system, this is the kind of data that can help us figure out what we need to do to support faculty and students. That data can help us translate to not only student success in outcomes, but also student success in things like mental health and being able to find their way around the learning environment. I'll say the modern learning environment because that is kind of where we are. The modern learning environment looks a lot different today than it did in, say, January of 2020.
Great point. Newton or Tanya, you want to join in on that?
I'll jump in quick because I was just thinking about this. I've just been, funny enough, writing some modules on what is data and data science for a new workforce development program that we have at UWM. And it's very interesting. Data sometimes in research are very scary things, especially if people aren't quote unquote researchers. And so I just wanted to say, like, I think it's really important to just think of if data is just information. Like we have lots of information right now, especially at our fingertips when we're teaching remotely in our learning management systems and beyond. And so data is just information that we have at our fingertips. And Jess was, pressing my brain there to think from like a student perspective. And so right now, I think it's good to, as faculty, to provide students more data about their experience. So for example, faculty can be using more active learning course designs and pedagogies by providing their students more frequent feedback on their learning through low stakes assessments. So low stakes quizzing, low stakes minute papers or online discussions, and students can use the data, the feedback from the assessments, the qualitative data, to know each week what they're learning and what they're not learning so that they're able to grow rather than having these catastrophic exams that show up 8 weeks in and then 30% of the students fail. And Jess got me thinking too about the faculty use of student data. You know, learning analytics a few years ago or a decade ago was like, this is the big thing. And those of us who had been teaching online forever were like, oh wait, I already used learning analytics. I just didn't know that I used learning analytics because I'm always looking in my class, in my LMS to see what students logged in, what students didn't. I always have said I don't want any students drifting off into cyberspace. So I think that we can use student data to, just from what we have access to in our LMS. You don't have to have a fancy research degree or anything like that to go in your LMS control panel and find out a student hasn't checked in this week. And you can reach out to the students quite systematically and shoot them all emails and be like, hey, are you guys okay? Like we've got, some stuff going on this week. Reach out to me if you need something. So I think even using things that we don't always think of as data or as, empirical rigorous research, there's still everything's data and there's lots of ways we can take advantage of it.
That is precisely right, Tanya. And thank you for helping to clarify that point. So in my roles, I'm frequently looked at and said, well, you're not a researcher, but I am. Instructional designers and instructional technology professionals are uniquely situated right now to serve as researchers because we are talking to faculty and students all day, every day. And we have access to those kinds of data points that aren't necessarily considered traditional research. So things that I'm leaning heavily on with my team right now, feedback from workshops that we've done for professional development for faculty, student surveys that are often seen as marketing surveys, but we're like, do you know how to get help when you're stuck in your class? And then ticket data. So service desk tickets. Our biggest, my team's biggest partners right now are the service desk and the people who run the LMS. They're the people who are surfacing the biggest pain points for students and the biggest roadblocks to their success and getting that into our team so that we can be proactive in faculty support. So thank you, Tanya.
Can I add something really quickly, just from a student's perspective as well? So I was an administrator in the K-12 arena during that whole No Child Left Behind era. So data is a way of life. And as I came into the, the higher ed arena, I work at an online university, and we capture a lot of data, just tons of data and just information that many people who didn't have that opportunity to work in No Child Left Behind don't see how powerful it is. So some of the things that we kind of look at is, okay, so what's being used in that course room? Are these videos being used? Is this section of the course? So if it's not being used, why do I need it? And how can I transform that into something that is usable? Another thing that we look at with our instructional designers is kind of like the assignment performance. So I don't know, week 3, assignment 2, students are doing poorly. Well, what's in that course that can front load what students may need or may not need, so that they can be successful. So again, the instructional designers are really fabulous with us when we say, okay, hey, can we do this, that, the other? And we brainstorm and throw stuff on the wall, and they say, well, this is feasible, that's not feasible. But it's all based on what the data says, what's working and what's not working, so that we can kind of, I guess, integrate our skill set with faculty and instructional designers to build something that will create success for the student, not what's easy for us or what's pretty, or has the bells and whistles, but what is the data saying helps students? And I think in that respect, that makes faculty and instructional designers researchers all the time. We're what is it called? Action researchers, whether we like it or not.
I love that. We are absolutely action research. And that's what it is we're identifying these things as it's happening, as opposed to the traditional models that tend to look backward. Like, how did this go? It's becoming increasingly necessary to collect that all the way along the way. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to go to a question that includes a term that I learned from Newton Miller. So how could faculty learn more about what at potential students need? So I'm wondering if Newton wants to start to answer that question.
Well, it's interesting when you say that at potential term, because I'm thinking a lot of folks don't use that term. And I don't know if we coined it or not. So I grew up urban, and I grew up, low socioeconomic. And, throughout my time, I've been called at risk, marginalized, underserved, all kinds of things. And I'm like, really, am I? What does that mean? And I realized that what my instructors were doing from a good standpoint from their side of the fence was making me look at myself a little differently. So we just decided to change the term, from at risk to at potential. And it came about, so I wrote a book called Why Some Seeds Don't Grow. And in one of the chapters, we talk about the potential of a seed. And what we realize is that as instructors, we should have a cognitive shift in how we view our students. If we can view our students more like a seed. So for instance, say you have a peach seed or an acorn, and you sit that on the windowsill, it'll sit there for 25 years, right? And it won't do anything. It'll just sit there for 25 years, right? But inside that seed is a peach tree that can produce a bunch of peaches, or an acorn has a gigantic oak tree inside of it. So it is, what am I looking at? It's the first thing that we have to have that cognitive shift in our mind when we're looking at our students. What am I seeing? Am I just seeing this student that I'm deeming to be, lazy or lackadaisical or procrastinating? Or am I seeing this thing that has this potential sitting on the windowsill? Now, remember, that seed can sit there for 25 years. I can take it off that windowsill, put it in some soil, give it some water, and in a couple of weeks, it's going to grow, even though it sat there all that time, because it possessed the potential. So we have to say, okay, this student is at potential, meaning I might be the soil, I might be the water, I might be the sunlight. So I think when we take that cognitive shift, and we see our students as at potential, then it's easier for us to do the things that you ask me. How can we support these students in the classroom? And really, that's really about just building accommodations. It's really about just building a class or a course where students can succeed. So you're looking, as we in the last question I said, you're looking at what does a student need, to succeed. So for instance, I see these patterns and they're not doing well at this point in the class. So what do they need? Well, let me just put that thing in there before they get to it, and let me tell them that it's there. So, when they reach that point, that anxiety's gone, that issue or that problem is gone. So some of the techniques that we use, and not to talk a whole lot, but we did a study, and if you were in the keynote, I did a keynote for this, but we did a study with, and I chose men of color to do that study because they were the lowest performing population. We had about 1,300 men of color. We did a series of interviews and a series of surveys. And we found all these techniques and methods, and then we backwards designed them into things we could do in our classroom. So in the programs that I lead in particular, there's 8 high-powered ones, but there's 5 that we all use, and one is relaxed deadlines. So anytime you can say, hey, you know what, it's due on Tuesday, but if you need till Thursday, that's fine, but I need you to talk to me first, or whatever the case may be. If you can relax that deadline in any way, then for your at potential students, you remove all types of anxiety. And what happens, you'll see, is that they'll tend to not turn it in late. They'll tend to turn it in on time because now the anxiety is moved, and that growth mindset is putting in place, and they'll want to attack. Another one we use are exemplars. Anytime you can put an example in the classroom of what an A paper, an A project, whatever it is that you want them to do looks like, man, you just went half the battle for any student on any level. If you can do what we call teach the mastery, we call that in the education realm. So in essence, if someone turns something in, that's not the final over, that's it, that's all. For example, I just turned in a proposal to our dean yesterday, and he sent it back to me and said, hey, consider this. Remember, such and such is going on, such and such is going on. So what will I do today? I'll go back after I get off this, and I'll revamp that proposal and send it back to my dean. And guess what? No foul, no harm. We have a better proposal. So if you can take that type of approach with your students in any way, you teach the mastery. It's not a one and done. And I'm glad life is not like that for me, because I would have been done a long time ago. Right? Another one's access and availability, to make yourself as accessible and as available as possible. We use text messages and cell phones, whatever it is that you can find. There's apps out there. There's all kinds of things, but you gotta let your students know, whether it's face-to-face or online, that I'm right here with you. I have you. Here's my hand. I understand. Whatever it is you need, I have you. Contact me as soon and as often as you need me. Another quick one, just to show you a course at a glance, course videos is the one that we use. That's the 5th one that all of us use in our programs. So really all that is we put videos in place for students for rough things or things that they haven't done so well, or to introduce a thing and to take that introduction out of the academic vernacular. And we just say, what that means is simply, instead of formative assessment is all you're doing is you're just assessing as you go. You're checking to make sure they're learning as you're going. That's what formative assessment is. So we just do those kind of things. And what it does for that oral culture, because a lot of times at potential students operate in the oral culture and not a print culture, it levels the playing field. It makes things equitably accessible. So those are some of the things that we do. I have a bunch of other techniques and methods, but I've been talking a lot. I don't know if I'm answering your question, so I'll just be quiet and let the next person talk.
I'm going to jump in here because the first time I heard Knott talk about at potential was last summer, not 2020 pandemic summer, but 2019 at the UW Distance Teaching and Learning Conference. And as somebody who sat in rooms where we're talking about learning analytics and student success, everyone kept using the word at risk. And it really drove me crazy. And I was, as a student who's gotten 0.0s and gotten 4.0s, and like Knott said, it's, I don't know how I'm here, but definitely when you're at a 0.0 and you're getting kicked out and you're called at risk, that's not going to help you in any sort of way build the confidence that you need to succeed in college. And I can tell you that through firsthand experience. And so hearing him use the term at potential, because I don't think of myself as at risk. I look at myself as a student at the time that was at potential, that just wasn't finding my way as a first income or first generation low income college student who was orphaned, who was just trying to figure out this whole college thing without any support system at the time. What should have been done is, rather than deeming me at risk and kicking me out for a semester, as there should have been some sort of accommodation or support. So I really advocate for Knott's use of that term at potential, because I think we need to start thinking of our students as it's not their fault. There's not something wrong with them. They're not to blame. They're somehow flawed. It's our responsibility as faculty and as institutions to build systems around our students that, help support them. And Knott was talking about a few of them there. And I just wanted to collaborate with what Knott was saying, because we actually have empirical research that supports all of those things.
Yes.
So we know that from our research at the Data Research Center, that students want or need, in order to impact their outcomes, they need this clarity or ease of learning. It shouldn't be up to the students to figure out what we want as faculty members. Like, what does she want? What am I doing? I don't understand this. It's our job as faculty members and instructors to be able to explain to our students through videos or through text what we expect them to be doing, how we expect them to be doing it, what the product is going to look like. Knott had mentioned some exemplars. And so I just wanted to bring up, a couple of things around that. And I see Jessica nodding and probably wants to jump in as well. But very important issues in how we're looking at students. They are at potential. It is our job to create systems that allows them, systems that are inclusive, that are going to create equitable experiences and allows all students to be successful. I'll get off my soapbox now.
I just wanted to thank Knott. My face hurts from smiling. I had never heard the at potential.
I know, isn't it awesome?
I've already ordered the book. I've already tweeted about the book. But just, I'm kind of here. I am a researcher, but I am also a very proud practitioner. And just hearing the phrase at potential as opposed to at risk really can help support folks like me have more positive interactions with faculty that we're trying to support and more positive interactions with students that we're trying to support, right? I, like Tanya, was the kid who stepped off the bus in Lansing, Michigan and was like, oh, this is a big city. I had no idea. I graduated with a 2.9. I just couldn't get the help I needed because people told me I should know better. I was so privileged in so many ways and so lost in so many ways. But when we talk about data, and why I was nodding at Tanya is because imagine a world where a faculty member paused at the end of week 2 and asked for student volunteers and did some little bit of usability testing and said, hey, student 1, I'm just going to watch you for a moment while you navigate my course and find the Zoom link. Oh, can you tell me where the syllabus is? I'd like to watch you find it. Because I think the assumptions we make about students and where they're finding things and how they're finding things are very much ingrained in our heads. And we think they're doing things and we never stop to ask them if they are. I actually found in my dissertation that I was asking, so reading, online learning is largely an exercise in reading. How do you read? What do you print? Oh, I read online. I print the things I think are important. Cool. What do your students do? They read online. They print the things that are important. Cool. How do you measure that? Oh, I'd love to measure it, but I don't have time. So we're never maybe asking that question. So I just want to thank you. This has been wonderful. It was wonderful to hear your thoughts, and you changed at least one practice today. So thank you.
Well, great. Well, great. Well, great.
I think I just want to jump in too. I think what Newt and what Jess are both talking about is the idea that we're focusing on the learner.
Yes.
And so, and rather than what we're necessarily used to or comfortable with, and
Right.
in focusing on the learner and putting them at the center when we think about how we're going to teach or how we're going to design our course, I think is the first step. Jess talks about user design a lot and actually just wrote and contributed to the new data research toolkit that's coming out this fall. And so again, it doesn't have to, you don't have to have knowledge of advanced statistics. You don't have to have read Geertz and understand anthropological views on ethnography or any of those sorts of things. I think what we're trying to say too is that research is accessible to everyone. And as Jess talks about, just understanding your student experience going through your online course now that you're teaching remotely, just understanding that experience and gathering data around that helps achieve some of the things that Newt was talking about. So that that sort of accommodation that that students need, that clarity and ease of use, understanding their experience and how they experience the course site and the navigation is all part of that.
To be
Right.
clear, you don't have to read those things, but it's really fun. I mean, you could go ahead and read them.
I think it's important to say in this segment, because a lot of times when we talk about accommodations, we talk about building courses for student success. A lot of more traditional educators think that is reducing the rigor, and by no way are you reducing the rigor. In essence, what you're doing is you're increasing the rigor and you're making the course more relevant for your students. You're moving all the mess out of the way and you're getting to the point, and you're able to have more focused, more pinpointed, higher order conversations with your students. You can operate in that analysis, evaluation, and synthesis mode of Bloom taxonomy almost the whole time if you take the time on the front end to build a course that has all the tools, all the accommodations to make things equitable for the different types of learners that you have. Yeah. So it's really based in a theory. I don't know if it should be called a theoretical principle or not, Tanya. But excuse me, we can say Tanya. It would be Carol Dweck's work. It's really a growth mindset. It's really creating a growth mindset, not just in the student, but in us as instructors first. How can I help my students grow if I'm not, pliable in my mindset?
Yeah. I will argue with you about Dweck's work. We'll save that for another session because I'm not 100% on board with that. But what I think you bring up, I just was having a conversation with this yesterday, because you're right. People think like, oh, you're making it easy for them. Right. And it's, so if you think about the theoretical construct of engagement, Aston, Tinto from the 80s, the idea of academic challenge doesn't change when you make the course easy to navigate, or that they understand what they're supposed to be doing and you have clear instructions. That by no means is dumbing down the course. You're not impacting the rigor. Your course online can be just as academically challenging as any experience. But what they shouldn't have to do, it's like taking an exam. You shouldn't have to know how to take a test to get assessed. You shouldn't have to know how to take an online course to have a learning experience. We have to reduce those barriers so that we can truly understand how students are learning and get them to learn deeper. If they can't even understand what you're asking from them, then we have failed. They have not failed. They probably are brilliant. We just haven't laid it out for them. And I'll tell you, as faculty, it's hard going online. It's hard unpacking all your expectations because we probably never have done it before. Right. But it's our job to unpack those through videos or really detailed writing or whatever it is. We need to translate what we want out of our students to them. They shouldn't have to figure it out.
And in those videos to also, as we're talking about equity, I want to purposely surface, and Newt and Tanya, we've all gotten at this in our talk, but I also want to purposely include accessibility as a part of that equity work. So as we're looking at these different modalities, as we're looking at different ways to represent the learning and making things navigable, that accessibility is very much a part of that. So it is in no way impacting the rigor of the course, but help them find it, help them know. But if the roadblock is that they can't access the material in the first place, we've already made a huge mistake, right? We've already just devastated the experience.
Right.
So I just want to put that out there.
And we have, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The research says that when we make our courses accessible for what we think are a portion of our students, we're actually making it accessible for different groups of students, for all of the students. When we take videos and transcribe them in our research, what we found out is a lot of students would prefer to have the transcription instead of the video, and or would like to have both sets of media. When we look at the research on that, making our course design accessible, although we might think it's for those with physical or mental impairments, it actually works for all students. Yes. We don't do a really great job of assessing students with impairments. The majority, we saw an increase from like 5% to 40% with some new instruments that we developed to help students identify if they have an impairment or not. So I think we really underestimate the accessibility needs for our courses. If we make all of our courses accessible from day one, I guarantee you that all of the different students that we are looking to create inclusive practices for will benefit. No question.
Exactly. That was the premise of our whole research. Let's look at the lowest performing population, or the one that had the most difficulty in accessing the information. That's just rocket science. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's it makes sense.
It's not rocket surgery. I've heard that a lot. And I've been hearing that theme in both of what you were saying. And I wanted to put the word accessibility in there just to make sure that people aren't missing that as a very key part of what we do. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So now I'm going to ask the question, since we've been talking about, what the research says. So in the world of student success, what questions are we, no matter where we sit in this realm, what questions are we not asking that we should be asking as researchers or practitioners?
I just want to jump in when we talk about student success. I hope you don't mind, Mary Ellen.
Yeah,
One
sure.
of the things that came out of the DETA work and our summit that we actually had 5 years ago was like, what is student success? I think student success became a really cool PR buzzword. I think when colleges started losing enrollments, all of a sudden they were really concerned about, student success where they never were before. And so I think two things. Student success is obviously some of the traditional measures. Are they learning? Are they completing the course? Are they able to move on to complete a degree? And are they able to have the life that they've wanted and move beyond their circumstance and those sorts of things? I think also, though, it's very interesting when you ask students, like we did through some qualitative data, which we haven't published yet, what they think is success is very different than what faculty and or institutions are. See, what we're doing is we're using our own measures, right? Oh, we need students to pass this class. We need them to get A's. We need them to graduate, or it hurts our statistics. When you ask students what their idea of success is, they actually don't care about any of the things necessarily that we do. So a lot of times it's very interesting that they actually want to learn. They don't just want to get done with the class or get an A. Some students don't even want A's. They're not even concerned about getting a good grade. They're just concerned about passing. So I think there's lots of different segments about how we can define student success. And I think that each university, each discipline, each group of students, depending what program they're on, is a little different. So I just wanted to jump in and mention that, because student success, it's sort of that niche word that we use in our sort of area. And sometimes I think we need to really, truly think about what is students' idea of being successful in their post-secondary experience.
I agree 110%. It's why we use something, we call it the Janet Jackson principle, right? Where what we, because every student wants something different. And I mean, that could be from a social aspect. It could be from, there's a lot of different factors that cause that. So when we're designing our courses, a lot of times because my perspective was a lot different than most of my team that I work with, just because of our background growing up. And I was like, a lot of students don't even want to know that. That's what we some of our courses, the students just want to get through because it gets them to the next course, or something like that. So let's look at it from their aspect. So Janet Jackson has 2 songs. One of them is what is it? Control, right? So what can I control and what can I not control in this whole process of development or looking at the data or whatever the case may be. So we look at that from a student's perspective and not for ours. And then the second song is what have I done for you? What can you do for me? What have I done for you lately, or whatever it is. So we want to look at what can I do for the student. I want the student to see here, look, this is what I can do for you, because I know that our common goal right here is for you to finish this course. And I'm going to use the word successful. We want to get a passing grade out of this course. You don't take the course to fail. So I know we're on the same level right there. So what can I do for you? Here's what it is. And these are the things that are in my control. So I don't have any empirical data to go with that. That's just kind of like a life lesson. And I think something we learned from our own, like I said, we're constantly doing action research in our program. I mean, we have all kinds of charts, all kinds of things. This worked, this didn't work. Let's tweak this. Let's go back and try again. So if you're asking what questions should we be asking, or I wouldn't be able to answer that question until I'm faced with that situation, where a student needs something, or it's a brand new, I'm going to say experience for us, and we never encountered it. So at that point, then we begin asking questions kind of Socratically to ourselves and to our students to see what we can develop.
Great. Anyone else want to weigh in on what questions we should be asking that we're not?
It can be data for Dr. Miller. I mean, I remember being in school and even in college, and I mean, I'm like the poster child for how is she here? Because people are saying, well, you just should do this, or you should know this. I'm like, how? Why? And so it's very easy to look at students like me and be like, well, she's just a jerk, but I genuinely didn't understand why I should care, or what mattered, or what was the point. I don't need to dissect a frog. Why would I do that? I'm going to be a journalist, those kinds of things. So, but I remember very distinctly that feeling of, I don't care about that. Why should I color inside the lines? That's just ridiculous. Let's all just take a moment of silence for my mother.
Yeah, I remember that as an engineering student early on. I was like, why do I have to take English? I don't have to write. I need to compute. But I will say this. One thing that is I'm not going to retract what I just said. I really don't know what to ask until I'm faced with. But I think one thing that all instructors should be asking students, especially if they're working with at-potential students, and you haven't come from an at-potential, underserved, or marginalized population. There are things, survival mindsets. There are just factors that you don't understand because you have not seen them. So I would say a question you should be asking yourself is, how is my student thinking, and why are they thinking that way? Because things that might make sense from that at-potential survivalistic mindset standpoint will not make sense from someone who grew up, in a different arena that was more investment mindset. So being able to say, why are they thinking that? And to be able to have that conversation, just ask the question. I don't understand this. Why are you doing this? Because I would do such and such, but not in a demeaning way, and I really want to know so I can help the next person, or you, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I actually just was quick opening up our data to look at the analysis of student success to share that, but it was very interesting. And I think what Knott talks about is ask your students. You can very much so put together a survey or do focus groups with students and ask them, what is the idea of success for you in this course, in your program, at this institution? Some of the things were interesting that students talk about. For me, I went to college because my mom put it in my head, because nobody else had, that this is what I needed to do. Like there was no question. And when I read the codes, the themes that came out of our data, it really resonates because students talk a lot about growth, not just professionally, but personal growth, becoming educated. They talk about the impact that this has on their family, being able to succeed in these courses or in their program. For me, I felt like as the oldest cousin, I needed to do it for my family so that they could all see me succeed in college. I didn't mean to keep on going and getting more degrees, but here I am. Also, a lot of students talk about the impact on career, and we focus a lot on academic knowledge and discipline-specific knowledge, but at the same time, we need to be thinking about from a student perspective is how does this relate to real life, what they're learning in the classroom, how does it relate to their career? And in some disciplines, that's a little bit more challenging. When we talk about what questions we should be asking, I think just asking our students what is success, but also for us, we need to identify, like Newt was just saying, what are the factors that are influencing the success? So like one of the things I've spent years working on is identifying what are the different things we do in our classroom or at our institutions that are actually linking to student outcomes. And so taking it a step further of saying, okay, we've decided we're going to do these things in the classroom. We need to actually know that it's actually improving students' learning from their perspective, right. That it's actually helping them grow and perform better. There's surveys that you can actually measure students' perspective on their success that we have in the toolkit. And then there's also other institutional data. But we have to know, and there's especially when we look at equity issues around ethnic and racial minority students and what impacts the outcomes, there's not a lot of research out there. There's actually not a lot of research in ed tech and online learning in general where we're linking factors to success measures. So in general, we all need to sort of be doing that because otherwise we don't know if what we're doing is actually working on a grander scale beyond our own classroom and what we can witness and feel with our students. Because we should be sharing this all over the place, right? If we know something's working and it's influencing students in my class, then I should be using it and Newt should be using it and Jess should be using it. And we need to replicate these practices and scale them so that, it's not just like kept in the silo. We need to get out there and say, hey, we know these factors are working. These are the things we need to be doing. While we sit here and have this conversation, there's another group of people that are trying to figure out what the factors are. Yeah, like what should we be doing? All right, let's just throw $1 million to like figure out some factors. And it's like, actually, there's people who have factors in mind. Let's actually validate that they're working with, predictability and then get them out there.
Well, they can throw some of the $1 million this way.
We'll take care of that. Just send it our way.
I don't have any money, but I'm in for like $10 or whatever. Just let me know what study I'm funding and I'll look at my bank account. But I'm just saying, like, I just tweeted that Tanya and I are gesticulating wildly. We've gotten to the point of the panel where we're gesticulating. That means this is a good panel. Things are working. We are engaged. Like, let's just keep it going.
Right. I think it's important that we be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. We have to ask those questions to our students that are different. Even there's a different generation. You have Gen X, Gen Z's coming. There's a different approach to life than it is from mine. I'm a Gen Xer. So you got millennials, then Ys, and there's just some difference in how we do things. Period. So I need to ask those questions. Wait a minute, this is the way we did it when I was a young boy. Why are you doing it this way? I need to understand that and make ourselves, be okay with being uncomfortable in those questions and respectful. And again, that's on a small scale. So how to make that larger or grand scale, maybe Tanya will write that book and send it to us and we can all be a part of that study because I would love to help.
Well, I think leaving here today, we have a collaboration going that we can keep this energy and momentum moving to do exactly that.
Right.
Very good. Thank you, panelists. We're coming up on 45 minutes past the hour, so I want to transition now to some questions. We have one question that has come in, at least through the chat that I see. And that is, I think maybe we've answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. What can teachers ask students then to understand what the students are thinking? Anyone want to take that question?
Tanya just started getting at that a little bit. I'm going to kind of hang out in the chat a little. You know, and Newton has gotten at that a little bit as well, which is probably why the book club for his book is now up to about 8 people just from this particular panel. Hey, Twitter, hey, chat, we've got a book club, hit me up. So, but the questions that we need to be asking are what's working. You know, we're hearing from scholars like Dr. Miller and Dr. Joosten, and like, are we asking the right questions, and what questions should we be asking? In some ways, I almost want to be very meta and say, it might be worth asking the students what questions we should be asking. So there are very clear, cut and dry times when we can say, okay, it's very clear that this student isn't engaging or doesn't want to do the thing or isn't following the directions or whatever. But even in those clear, cut and dry times, we still need to wonder why, right? We still need to ask those questions. And so being in a support role, it's hard to navigate those spaces. So very frequently, and one of the things that my team will be focusing on very heavily starting with our November sprint is asking those questions of students. What questions aren't you being asked? Especially when it comes to academic technology for my team, like, what aren't you being asked? What do you want us to ask you? But also, you know, just how is this working? How are you able to find things? Like, what could I redesign that would make it easier for you to access this? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and we have questions like that in the data research toolkit. Megan just shared a link to our grant site, and I just put in our new website, dataresearch.org. And we do have a new toolkit, actually, thanks to WCET, that will be out in this fall. But what in the toolkit it has is a student survey instrumentation packet. So it has all of these different questions that you can go ahead and ask your students. So we have a series of open-ended questions, free response questions that we've already tested for the last 4 years, asking exactly that. So like from your perspective, what is success for you as a student? We have other questions like Jess was just alluding to, where we have specifically asked students and collected this data over years, you know, what practices or behaviors of your instructor positively influence your success? Not in those fancy words, but you know, you get my point. So there's lots of open-ended questions. We also have validated survey tools that you can use. So we have a student learning instrument where you can ask students 10 questions and, you know, using multivariate analysis, if you're that cool. If not, you can just contact me. You can figure out what are the different things that are impacting student learning and so forth. A lot of it is descriptive data, but we also have, you know, some more advanced inferential and predictive statistics that those instruments have been used in. And so in talking about factors, back to what Knott and Jess have been alluding to, is that there are factors that are happening in the design process in the classroom. We published an article in November in the Online Learning Journal. The number one factor that influences student outcomes is actually design. In the multivariate regression analysis that we did, the design and organization of a course actually was like 78% a predictor of student outcomes. It was far greater than anything else, meaning your interaction with your students, the students' interactions with each other. We always focus a lot on content. I think content was like maybe 10%. So when you're thinking about your course, a lot of you are thinking about a technology, or you're thinking about your content or those sorts of things. You need to be thinking more about the design and organization of your course. And I just want to mention one other study in the American Journal of Distance Ed in June talks about the fact that, and more now than ever, we did this research on students, and in particular did some research funded by the Spencer Foundation on minority students and their online learning readiness as we move to remote instruction. Our students are not ready for online learning. We actually know that they're really good at the social tech stuff, that they use it a lot. But what they don't have expertise in is the online work productivity stuff, like how to use Word and the different functions of Word. I myself am constantly struggling to keep up with Word, and Excel and PowerPoint and all of those sorts of things that they're required to use in class, even Google Docs and so forth. Although I think that will change because, you know, my kid now is a whiz at like all of these Google products. But for right now, we need to be assessing our students, and we need to be helping them ensure that they have broadband access, that they have the actual technology access and an environment to study in. But we also need to make sure that they have the tech skills. Our students are not these digital natives or whatever they were calling them. You know, I think that that's totally false. So we need to make the efforts to ensure that our students have these skills that they need, and that we are designing and organizing our courses. I should mention all of these studies are included. The research models, the instrumentation are in the research toolkit coming out. So you can do all of this research at your institution just by giving your students the surveys we've already developed and collecting the data. And again, reach out to me and we can partner in helping make that happen so that we can better identify these factors, not just for me or our institutional partners. Several institutions were involved, but for everybody. So we need more replication of this so that we can understand what things are working for students.
I can give you.
I'll just step off now.
I'm sorry. I can give you some concrete examples, things we use every course. Like I said, I teach an online university, so all of our courses, at the end of that course, there's an end of course survey that the students have to complete. And it addresses content, it addresses instructor, it just addresses a lot of things. From that data, so I get that data and I kind of parse it out and I look at that data and I look at, well, what I do is I look at it by subgroup actually. So I start to try to find trends in different subgroups so that what we do then is on an individual level in our classrooms, instructors then can ask questions based on that data, based on those overall end of course surveys, which are kind of broad. We can then ask more pinpointed questions. So for example, one question that we just asked in our teacher prep program, we saw some students were having some issues with their after they finished their student teaching, actually getting their credential from the state. So we were then able to ask pinpointed questions, and they were really more for our students who didn't deal with establishment more. It was really more our potential students who really don't like the system too much. They didn't want to deal with the state. So we were able to ask, what can we do? In essence, we didn't ask it this way because they wouldn't be able to answer the question, but more like, what can we do to make this easier? So you understand the steps, you know, what kinds of things do you need in your way to make it easier to get your credential in your hand after you finish that, you know, your testing and things of that sort. So those are some of the questions that we were able to ask. There was another example that I had in my mind and it just slipped, which means maybe I'm not supposed to say it. I don't know. Oh, it had to do with content. So they have to create a teaching philosophy. You know, what is your teaching philosophy? And we found that some students did very well because they were from a very vocal background. They had a large vocabulary. They were able to speak abstractly in those arenas, where some of our other students wanted to get to the point, and it, you know, it was really a bullet point and not a theory. So we were then able to ask what kind of question. We were able to ask, well, what, you know, why do you not think that you don't need to be able to elaborate, you know, these things well? So what happened, why I'm mentioning that is, if you're following me, it wasn't just about the educational philosophy. It was about why this group of people weren't able to communicate their ideas in an elaborate fashion, you know, in a print culture so that they could, you know, sell themselves and be employed. So I'm trying to come through the back door because everyone came through the front door with some really super stuff. So I'm trying to come through the back door to say, here's some things you can do on a small scale and attach it to whatever large scale data your university may be capturing. And when you get that toolkit, you're going to be on fire. I know I'm going to grab it.
That is for sure. And then we got a question that kind of ties into this from Wendeth in the chat about how to avoid survey fatigue. And you're really getting at that, Newt. First, what you're pointing out is so critical in things like how are we excluding international students who are coming from backgrounds who aren't necessarily as vocal or pushy as Americans can be. This is a big problem. Especially as we've pivoted to online for so many. We're trying to figure out how to get them access to systems and also how to get them access to the conversations happening in the systems. But when Wendeth was talking about survey fatigue, one of the things I want to point out is that you can do these small scale studies, right? We can start small. We can have conversations with our students. And this is one of the points where I want to point out, like, coming from us, when I say I'm a proud practitioner, I see no embarrassment in doing a little more of that marketing and UX type research just in the academic spaces. So we can say, hey, I have some little Starbucks gift cards from my communications team, and I would love to just have a conversation with you for a minute, talk to you about this website. Like, the student gets a cup of coffee or, a $10 Amazon gift card or whatever. We get some of the data, start to ask some of the questions. We can reach out to the at potential students who, maybe could actually use $10 on Amazon to go towards a book purchase or something. I don't know. However we can do that. It doesn't all have to be in a survey. It can be conversational. It can be focus groups and things like that. And I think sometimes we shy away from those things because they don't always feel scholarly, but that data can really help drive. So as we'll all point at the toolkit because this thing is amazing. I want to give Tanya, I'm sure she's just really dying to get at this question from John Robertson that is in the chat, but how we communicate the benefits and limits of LMS data. That's another avenue that we can get at, but I'm just going to mute and
we have one question also that has come up in the Q&A. And it's about accreditation. So let me ask this quickly. We only have a few more minutes. When accreditation requirements are positioned at a level that doesn't align with students' level of preparation, how would you suggest approaching the conversation for lifting the student?
Well, first of all, I think that we all have criticisms and ways that we could improve our accreditation process, in particular when it has to do with online learning. And when it has to do with students that are at potential. And so again, I go back to the fact that we need to work together collectively to change the systems and not put that responsibility on the students in that way. We spend a huge amount of money and resources on student services that don't necessarily work. In all honesty, we don't have a lot of data that says all of these things work, and they are in response to government policies and accreditation policies. And so I think we need to think a little bit out of the box on this. And so my position is I wouldn't respond on how to approach the student. I would think institutionally and in as a bigger body with the accreditors on how we can rethink that. I do want to get to the LMS question though, if we have a few minutes.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to get to the LMS question just because again, people have been talking about learning analytics for about 15 years. I remember chasing Al Essa when he was at Desire to Learn around trying to get the algorithm for the student success tool that they were building. Of course, at the time, nobody wanted to share their algorithms because it was like the secret sauce. So that's how long I've been questioning quote unquote learner analytics, learning analytics, or more or less data that's in the LMS that's supposed to tell us something. And I spent a lot of time and a lot of years on this. And this is what I'm going to say. Learning analytics doesn't necessarily tell us a lot about what works and doesn't work for students. The people who develop software and technology or different applications, these engineers, which I've actually reached out to them and had conversations with them, are not thinking about producing behavioral data or collecting or analyzing qualitative data that's actually going to be theoretically relevant and indicate to us anyway that these things are impacting student outcomes. So I do know of some small examples in the country that are showing promise, But right now, I haven't seen any evidence that we should be using the data that's coming out of our LMSs in a grand scale to help us evaluate COVID response, to understand remote instruction, or to identify any practices necessarily that should be happening in the spring semester. We really need, even with the work of IMS Global and the different learning management systems and some of the others, that's just not an area we should necessarily be investing in right now until there's a bigger effort to produce data that, for example, looks at academic challenge in combination with social connectedness and involvement, and how that equaling engagement impacts student outcomes. But just counting engagement as ticks on a system tells us absolutely nothing. The data in of itself is not necessarily valid. So my response is always show me the research. So until somebody shows me a collective of research, not from MOOCs, but from 4-credit post-secondary online classes, that certain behaviors of students are theoretically relevant and linking to student outcomes, I probably am not buying that right now.
Right.
You guys agree?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Go ahead and disagree.
No. I know our time is done, but there's primary, secondary, and tertiary analysis of any data.
Oh, yeah.
So that LMS data usually is just primary data. It just gives you what. That's it. So to build that bridge from that primary to secondary or tertiary analysis, we have found from the practitioner side, it's all about my rubric. So how detailed what kind of backwards design thinking am I using to put that rubric in place so that I can back into the outcomes, so I can start to make that secondary and tertiary analysis happen from me, but I cannot rely on that LMS. They are just about ticks, X's and O's. The rest has to happen with us. I believe as far as content mastery, it's all about your rubric and how skilled, how detailed, how you're backwards designing so you can, capture some good numbers from there.
Great. I think we are out of time. Thank you for this lively discussion. Thank you, Newton, Tanya, and Jess for enlightening us. And I think we need to sign off.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Awesome as always. Thank you. And we'll see you at the book club.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Great job.